Do Paul's accounts from the conversion on the road to Damascus contradict each other? Does Acts chapter 9 and Acts chapter 22 contradict each other? Do they give opposing accounts? Let's look at them and examine them scripturally. Acts chapter 9 verse 7. And the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the voice but seeing no one. Acts chapter 22 verse 9 says, And those who were with me beheld the light, to be sure, but did not understand the voice of the one who was speaking to me. On the first look of an eye, it is a contradiction. In Acts chapter 9, people heard some voice, but saw no one. In Acts chapter 22, they heard no one's voice, but saw something. So, which one is true? Which of the accounts is true? And do they contradict each other? I think they both are true and there is no contradiction. Let's look closer on the passages. In 9th chapter, people heard the voice. It doesn't say that they necessarily heard the voice of some human. They heard some voice. This voice doesn't have to be a speech. They might have heard some strange sound. Some people compare it to John chapter 12, verses 28 and 29. There Jesus says, Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. So the crowd of people who stood by and heard it were saying that it had thundered. Others were saying, an angel has spoken to him. Here, the crowd heard something while God was speaking, but it wasn't necessarily his words, but they didn't hear his words particularly. They didn't hear his voice clearly. Some people interpreted it as a thunder. They didn't hear the voice of God. They didn't hear words. They heard something. The same could be in Acts chapter 9. They didn't hear the words of Jesus, but they heard some strange voice. It might have been thunder, as it was in John chapter 12. Also, Acts chapter 9 states that fellow travelers saw no one. It doesn't mean that they didn't see something. It just says that they didn't see a person of Jesus Christ. Acts chapter 22 tells us that they've seen the light. So comparing these both accounts to each other, they are complementary. They are cohesive. One says that they heard some voice, but they didn't understand it. They didn't hear a person. One says that they saw no one, and the other says that they saw light. These two accounts don't contradict each other. They both are completely true. They have seen the light, but they didn't see Jesus. They didn't see human. They didn't see person. They just saw the light. So at the end of this video, I want to tell you that the Bible has no contradictions. If we find one, we're obliged to seek an answer to that. Because if we see a contradiction, the problem is in our understanding, not in the Word of God. God is infallible and His Word doesn't contain any contradictions and any mistakes. Our reasoning is fallible, not the Bible. So read the Bible and God bless.